The most difficult body part to tattoo for me is hands and the ditch of the arm.
The ribs and the ass. It's too painful, and you have to stretch a lot, and so it's not very easy, especially if it's drawn by hand, like I do in Old Stencil. It's more difficult, yeah.
In my opinion, the most difficult place to tattoo on the body is probably just under your rib cage. It's an awkward area, you can't get much of a good stretch. It's just an awkward place.
For my opinion, the most difficult body part is the ribs, the side ribs, because it's really hard to stretch for me, and I don't like this part for tattooing.
The most difficult body part, for me personally, armpits. I'm always really afraid to tattoo armpits. That is, for me, it's the most difficult place.
Difficult body part to tattoo. Ribs is normally sore for realism, so like long sessions makes it really difficult. People don't sit that great. My least favourite place to tattoo is towards the back of the arm where it starts. There's a lot of stretch in there, so I always find it really difficult.
The most difficult body part to do is neck, ribs, and ass cheeks.
The penis. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is a difficult area to tattoo.
I would probably say the throat. The throat's a pretty hard spot to tattoo. Feels like you're tattooing in a cup.
To me, one of the most difficult body parts to tattoo has always been like the rib cage and the side, especially if the person's a little more squishy. You get, and lower back too, just anywhere where there's an extreme stretch. Makes it a little more difficult, you gotta use a little bit more hand. But yeah, I'd say that.
The neck area. It's kind of like you put a piece of paper in a shoebox, and then you have to draw inside that shoebox because you have the chin that's in the way, which is the siding of the shoebox, your clavicles. So yeah, it's pretty tight to work in that area. And painful, very painful.
I think the ribs or the hand. For the ribs, it's like the pain of the client, you know, because they start shaking after a while. And the hand, because of the healing and the movements, also the wrist. So for me, I think these are the two body parts that are most difficult. But what I do mostly, I do the arm, all legs, so I don't have that much difficult body parts, so.
I would definitely say the ribs. The ribs are difficult for the breathing especially, and it swells considerably. It's thinner skin, and I don't know. Yeah, it definitely swells. It's like the ditch area, it swells a lot too.
You know, I think there's multiples for me. I would say the neck skin. It just bounces, it's annoying, it tends to leak. It's almost like turkey skin, and I think that's independent of male or female, young or old. So I would say definitely neck skin is one of them for me.
I think the neck is, because it just depends on what the type of person's skin is, but sometimes it is horrible, you know. If the skin's tight, then, you know, it's okay, but some old skin or people that are like construction workers that have been, you know, sun damaged skin, it's a mess, man.
I would say would probably be one of, maybe like the throat. I do a lot of custom lettering, and a lot of people think lettering straight across the throat looks awesome, which it does, but trying to do the crispiest, cleanest lines down someone's throat is a little bit more of a challenge than I prefer. But yeah, that and the ribs for sure. Nice and stretchy skin always makes for a fun time.
I would say the rib area, just because everybody's body is different. You know, you'll get someone that's real skinny, and it's, you know, real taut skin, and then you'll get someone that's chubby and it's real loose, and you got to stretch more, or, you know, and it's just a sensitive area, I guess, because there's like it's all tendons, I guess, tendons and ligaments, so it's a little bit more painful to tattoo there, and that's what I think is the most difficult part. I mean, I've tattooed the bottom of a foot before, and that was kind of crazy, but I'd have to say the ribs is the most difficult part on the body of the tattoo, for me.
Oddly enough, the back upper arm, very difficult to get to. And rib cages, you know, they've always been known for being that, just because you got to breathe. And it's a very sensitive area, so the person's trying to endure it and breathe, and it just adds to the level of difficulty. And also depends on what kind of shape the person's in, you know, how fit they are.
In my opinion, would probably be maybe the inner thigh towards the gooch, or that section between the hamstring and the bum cheek. Sorry, one second. But you know when, so that's the hamstring and that's the bum cheek that cups under. You have to like lift the bum cheek up, and then that little section there, that's probably one of the hardest because that area doesn't see a lot of sun, so it's quite rough. It's the texture's a bit weird, and some people have like the fiery stretch marks that go up the bum cheeks. I'm not gonna drop any names.
Generally, our sides leaning close to the stomach, especially if there's more stretch marks involved. But just the sides in general, they're so stretchy, there's so much more work involved and time involved. You at least double or triple the size of the area when you're tattooing that. I did a foot on Sunday. For the most part, it was actually a breeze, but there were a few areas near the ankle with the angles and everything that made it really difficult. So I didn't like bury my needle or snag part of the needle to keep it smooth and even. Was really difficult in certain areas of that tattoo also, just because there's so many different curves and nooks.
Let me think of the most difficult body part I've tattooed. Necks I hate doing. Throats I absolutely hate doing. A throat might be the most difficult body part for me personally. You know, I've only done, I'm pretty sure it's only been 3 throats in my 22-year tattoo career, and the first 2 sucked, you know, they were so hard. And the third one wasn't that bad, so when I did the third one, I'm like, oh, you know what, all right, I'll try another one after this. I don't think I have yet. But when people ask, I don't say I won't do them, but I don't get all excited, you know, like I don't shy away from it. I don't like encourage them more if they ask for a throat. And people talk about it, I'm like, oh man, I hate doing throats, but I will, you know, if you want it, you know. You know, armpits, I've only done 1 armpit, and I hated it. The skin swells up in a weird way and stuff, and so I try to avoid armpits. I think that's one of the hardest places that I've tattooed. Just tattooed.
I tattooed my buddy's balls, and that was pretty tough. That's another story for another time, but